dubs as, I don't know if they're not a medium, but as a method of localization are kind of frowned upon, and I don't think that's fair. Frowned upon by the majority of the anime community. Because I am personally a big proponent of dubs. I'm a big fan of dubs, and with kind of the comparatively recent advent of broadcast dubs, I've been having a lot of fun watching shows that I think have good dubs and not have to wait like 9 months for them to get a dub. So it's a good time to be a fan of dubs. And although none of the ones I'm going to be talking about here are broadcast dubs, I think there's a lot of ones out there that are good. But anyway, yeah, I'm making a top 10 list of the top 10 best dubs, because sub purists, get the fuck out. Alright. Number 10, I have Neon Genesis Evangelion. My favorite show of all time, but only at number 10 on terms of how good the dub is. And the dub is, the version that I watch. I don't watch the sub. And the fact that it's number 10 could be a lot due to bias. It's very possible. So, I mean, hey, kill me. But I think what puts it at number 10 for me is, I'll be honest, the voice acting is kind of inconsistent, especially in the first few episodes. Like episode 1, Shinji and Misato just sound absolutely autistic. But by about the midway point, everybody sounds, fine and good. I would say great, just because these performances by everybody really are so, they stick out to me. They're very iconic in my mind. I can, recall mentally exactly how Rei or Shinji or Asuka or Misato sounds just off the top of my head. And again, that could have to do with just how great Ava itself is, but fuck you. Go kill yourself. Alright. So number 9, I put Shimonetta. Now, this is a newer one. This dub came out I think a few months ago. And Shimonetta itself came out a year ago. Now, Shimonetta, for those of you who don't know, it's means a boring world where the concept of dirty jokes don't exist. And the concept of the show basically is that it's future Japan, and the police and the government have cracked down on all things lewd. So, no porn, no jerking off, no anything. No sex until you're 18 or whatever. And it's a very comedic show. It's a comedy. And 90% of the humor is sex jokes. And I watched the show when it was airing back last year. And I thought it was fine. I thought it was serviceable. I kind of the character designs were good. And the story was intriguing enough. And the social commentary was kind of interesting. But, I thought it was fine. It was a strong 6, light 7, I would say. But when I watched the dub, because, I just saw that the dub had come out a few months ago, I was like, that's kind of interesting. I wonder how the localization team was able to handle the jokes. I wonder if I'll like it more if it is, if it's localized. And that's a big part of dubs that I don't think a lot of people recognize, at least if, you're a basic anime fan, basic ass bitch. But localization, how they kind of clean up some of the Japanese mannerisms from the script, make it read more naturally, more fluidly in English, that's a really underappreciated job, I think. And Shimonetta, in terms of making all the sex jokes work in English, when they didn't always, hit a home run in the Japanese version, the show went from again, a light 7 to a decent 8, I think, for me. Just because, and not that the performances by any of the actors were particularly great, obviously they're not bad. It was just kind of a middle of the road in terms of the acting itself. But The localization is so impressive, and how much a localized script was able to improve my enjoyment of the show. That's why I felt the need to put it here. Even above the dub of my favorite show of all time. But yeah, number 8, I have Trigun. Trigun's dub is also a little inconsistent, but I feel like a lot less so than Ava's. A lot less so. And yeah, it's just an all-around good dub. Johnny Young Bosch, one of my absolute favorite voice actors, playing Vash is hella good, hella iconic. Very, he's an actor with a lot of range, and he's very good at capturing the duality of Vash's personality. That was a good rhyme. The guy who plays Wolfwood, and that's going to be a theme here, is if I mention specific characters, I'm probably not going to know the names of their voice actors, so, whatever. The actor for Wolfwood also just perfectly encapsulates his character, the kind of stoic nature of it, but also the fun of it when he's in a social situation. So, not much to say, just a good-ass dub. That is, you can tell its age, I think, but still really good as hell. Number 7, I have Azumanga Daioh. Probably my favorite, just like pure comedy dub. And this is very much due. The acting all around is like good. It's like B plus, I would say, on the whole. But there's a few characters that are just S tier, God tier. I love them. I love that performance, and that's what puts it at number 7. Most notably, Osaka and fucking Miss Yukari. Osaka is probably one of my favorite dub performances ever. She is so charming. She's so cute. I love Osaka so much due to, her performance. Just having this little cute little Texas accent. I can't even imitate it, but it's the most charming thing in the world. And Miss Yukari, the lady who performs her, does a very good job of capturing the essence of the manic energy of Yukari. And I just think that's a really impressive job, I mean, Yukari's character herself obviously lent itself to big, wild interpretations, but her English voice actor was really up to the job, I think. So that's why that's there. Number 6, I have Durarara. And some people might say, "Oh, put Baccano up there," but I haven't watched more than 2 episodes of Baccano. I got kind of bored, but whatever. But yeah, Durarara. There's a bit of explaining on this one. So Durarara features 10 million characters, if you don't know, over its 3 or 4 seasons. It features 10 million characters. All of them are well voice acted. All of them meet that B plus grade, and that I think is why I put it above even Azumanga Daioh. It's just because of the scope of the dub. How there's so many characters with so much depth and traits and stuff. They have a lot of emotions, and there's so many characters that have that. Again, just the scope of the dub. How much work it must have taken is why I put it above. But I don't put it higher because there's one glaring issue. Well, there's kind of two. The biggest thing is the main character is not voice acted well. Mikado. And that's really distracting for the first 2/3 of the show, I would say. Mikado just goes everybody's doing good-ass voice acting around him, and he's like, "What's going on? Whoa!" Literally almost to that level. And, yeah, it's really distracting. But what saves it from being put lower, I would say, is that, again, in that last third of the show, there's a change in Mikado's personality, and the voice acting stays the same. There's kind of a general change in Mikado's temperament that makes the voice acting really interesting. It makes it chilling. So that's what keeps it from being lower. Even though the main character being by far the worst acted character in your show is kind of a big deal usually, but I excuse it somewhat. Just because, again, the last third is so interesting. Number 5, got Toradora. I don't know too much to say about Toradora. It's just a great-ass dub. Kind of a small cast, but I'd say they all have like an A average in terms of... I can't... not a single moment of the show, I think, ever felt awkward or anything in terms of the voice acting. I think everybody just all around good-ass voice acting. Again, it also features Johnny Young Bosch doing one of his more innocent kind of goofster roles. Yeah, and Toradora had Johnny Young Bosch too as Isaiah, which is one of my favorite performances from him. But yeah, not much to say about Toradora, just good as hell. Number 4, I have Black Lagoon. Black Lagoon, I'd say it's about as equally well voice acted as Toradora in terms of, the overall. But what kind of just puts it above and beyond is the localization, how just fun the script is, how all the fucks. I will say, with how few fucks there are in Japanese subs and English dubs, I do kind of value that as like a thing when a dub is kind of foul-mouthed. I find that, more entertaining. Even though, it's like edgy or whatever, but I think it's kind of just a market that's lacking, so I appreciate it when it's there. And shouts out to the lady who does Balalaika, because Balalaika, another one of my absolute favorite anime performances of all time. She just, love it. Perfectly encapsulates an amazing character. Number 3, I have Fate Zero. Now this one is kind of I put it up so high, again for kind of the same reason I put Durarara where I put it. Just, it's a large show with a large cast, doing a lot of big emotional scenes and stuff. And all of them are fantastically voice acted. Every single one. Except for like maybe the kids who show up for like 5 seconds. You can kind of forgive like voice acting that's supposed to be done by a child, even though it's not. But that's not significant in any way. It's not even like a side character. But yeah, Fate Zero. Just God tier dub. Obviously it's number 3. Mostly, this is a big shout out to my nigga who plays Gil. Again, another one of my favorite acting performances of all time. For Gilgamesh. Really made me fall in love with his character. Really made him one of my favorite characters in general. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Just another good ass one. Number 2, Cowboy Bebop, and I know, I just hold your horses right there, buddy. It's a controversial opinion, not putting it at number 1. And I do love Cowboy Bebop's dub, obviously. That's why I put it at number 2. Fuck it. No, I'm not gonna try and defend why I didn't put it at number 1. But fuck you. It's good as hell. I don't need to tell you about how good Cowboy Bebop's dub is. You watched it. You watched the dub. You didn't watch it subbed. You're not an autist. No, I will say, I think what didn't make me put it at number 1 is just because I don't really remember any of the side characters at all in terms of like their voice acting, other than Vicious, who isn't, he's like the main villain. He's not a side character. So that would be why I wouldn't put it at number 1, despite how amazingly well voice acted the main cast is. So there, that's my justification. Some honorable mentions, actually, I got here before we reach number 1. Put Full Metal Alchemist, either series, I think, has great voice acting. I probably should have put it on here. Probably could have, but I didn't. High School of the Dead, kind of similar to Black Lagoon, just a really fun, well-localized script. So what was I? Yeah, High School of the Dead. Yeah, similar to Black Lagoon in that it's just a really fun, well localized, generally well acted, just kind of goofy script, and I think it's a lot of fun. Definitely one of the better, kind of etchy dubs. I'd say like the best one, although it's more of an action show kind of. It walks the line. And also High School DxD, not because it's like one of the better dubs I've ever seen in my life. Well, it's on the good side of the line, but I think it's notable for being the best like pure etchy show dub that I've ever seen. So I think that's notable. Even if I would never dream of putting it on my top 10, but just so you know, if you're looking for that kind of stuff. And I'm running out of space here, so I gotta make this quick. Wrap it up quick. Number one, I put Steins Gate. Steins Gate is the perfect dub for me, and I know that's kind of controversial, but all the characters are amazingly well acted. They're super iconic in my mind. I could call out how they talk in an instant. The localization is a lot of fun, and does a good job of working these kind of American cultural things into a show, or the original translation, which is so full of like Japanese cultural things, does a really good job with that. And yeah, everything is well done, especially Mayuri. Mayuri, I think her performance could have been done horribly, but it's not, and it works really well, and I love it a lot, and that's the list.